Hey, good afternoon. This is Dube coming live from the AAU Junior Olympic Games with Coach AngeloTaylor.
Yes, sir. Coach AngeloTaylor now.
You made that transition from athlete to coach.
Yes, it's something I always knew that I would do. I have a family full of educators, and I feel like coaching is an extension of education. So I knew immediately when I get done I was going to go directly into coaching.
Now, in working with the youngsters, have you found that kid that reminds you of you when you were their age?
Not yet. Well, you know what? I take that back. I do see some kids, some of the younger kids, because I didn't start running until I was like 12 years old, and I had to run in the 13, 14 group. So you're quite natural, we had some kids out there like that. And, I had humble beginnings. It took me a while to catch on and, with a growth spurt before I started winning some races. So I make sure I pay close attention to those kids. I don't really, shy away from them. I make sure I encourage them. I know what path I took and where I started from.
Now, when you were growing up, there was obviously stars already in the game. Who did you look up to?
Okay, I got to go with my main man, Milton Campbell.
Okay.
That was one of the stars in Georgia that I looked up to. I mean, Milton his stride, he just looked so smooth, you know what I mean?
Right.
400 and 800, he just ran effortlessly. So, he became later one of my, competitors and a great friend. So that's one of the people that I looked up in Georgia. And then on the college level, really I didn't look up to anybody in college. It was mostly the pros. So going to Georgia Tech, quite naturally, Derrick Atkins and Derrick Mills were the reason why I signed a letter of intent to Georgia Tech. Having the Olympic Games, 20 years ago in my hometown, watching these guys perform definitely inspired me to go do big things.
Now, coming through, obviously you won a gold medal from lane 1. When you went into that competition, did it matter what lane you were in?
No, it didn't. From previous competitions, for some reason I would drill like lane 1 and lane 2 a lot. So, I mean, even matter of fact, even my first race was in lane 1, so it never really bothered me. I just knew that I had to go out there and compete.
What is the biggest adversity that you've ever had to come over while you've been running or as a pro athlete?
I think it was the injuries. 2004, after winning the Olympic Games, trying to go back and defend my title, it was tough for me because I was injured. I had incomplete fractures in both of my shins, which was basically not a complete, it wasn't a complete break, but I had cracks like 9 on one side and 7 on the other. I was still competing on it and running, and I didn't make the final. As soon as I finished, I went back to the medical staff and got an x-ray, and that's when they told me, they was like, listen, you don't need to run another step because it could be a possibility that, my shin would cave and break, and that'd be definitely the end of my career. So I was faced with a decision, a choice, either have surgery where they would implement metal rods into my shins, or just simply sit out. And that was big. That was tough for me because I had take a whole year off. And as you know, when you're not training somebody else,
right.
Somebody else they're gaining an advantage. So it was rough for me, take a whole year off and watch, my competitors go out there, compete, get on the medal stand, and it was tough mentally and physically just to get back. Of course, when I got back, I didn't start where I left off, so it was a tough road to get back. People counted me out, they thought I was through, so I had to fight through it the next 4 years to go back out there and win again.
So now let's go to the opposite side. What was the pinnacle of your career? What was the most satisfying moment of your career?
This is a very, very hard. I mean, it's a toss-up between winning my first Olympic gold and then coming back off the injury and then winning a gold, two more golds. So I would have to say Beijing. 8 years after winning my first gold, go out there, set a personal best, and then run on the the men's 4x4 relay and set the Olympic record. I think that was the pinnacle of my career.
So now, as an athlete, as a coach, you all know that the only undefeated thing in track and field is time. When did you know it was time to hang up the shoes?
This year when I got injured, because I was definitely training for 2016. Look back on my career, I was like, the last 4 years was just dealing with injuries. And I just couldn't recover like I did when I was younger. So I probably should have hung it off until 2012, but I just still had that fire in me. Like, I still wanted to compete. And it's a hard decision to make, especially when you love the sport as much as I do and you love to compete. But, Father Time kicks in. Nobody can, beat Father Time. And I knew I did want to coach, so it was an easy decision, especially after I got injured. It was an easy decision to make after that.
So in closing, which one of your athletes are we looking out for this weekend?
We brought about 30 athletes, so I'd be up here all day trying to name all the athletes, but we brought a pretty good team. Everybody has progressed well. They're running fast, peaking at the right time, so we're looking for some great performances.
One last thing I want to know. Do you think that your Olympic resume gives you much more credibility than a regular coach without that Olympic resume?
I wouldn't necessarily say that it gives me more credibility than the coaches, because as a coach, you have to be able to coach multiple events.
Right.
So I'm just an Olympic champion in 400 hurdles, in 4x4. It does give me a lot of credibility in my event, but as an overall coach, you got to be able to coach all the events. I mean, for me personally, I was fortunate when I ran most of the events, so I know how to coach more than one event. I'm still learning. I definitely would like to be a head coach, maybe at a major university one day, so I'm still doing a lot of learning. But as far as my respective events, I know my stuff. So.
Well,